Unclean, unclean. Might as well be their anthem cries. They sit on the edge of town and beg for mercy. They're constantly denied. Unclean, unclean. This is their label. They die from starvation before they do from the disease because they aren't even allowed to eat the leftovers we leave behind at the table. Unclean, unclean. Their boils disgust society to the point of avoidance, and their disease turns them into mutes as well because their voices are perceived as an annoyance. Unclean, unclean. These are the last words they hear as they cling onto life. Not that they've ever lived in the first place, because they can't recollect the last time someone actually called them by their real name. Unclean. You're probably thinking of a first century leper right now. The ones with boils that blister up the entire body. And in parts, you're right. But just understand, we as society are disgusted by much less than a disease that creates boils in somebody else's body. No. We're disgusted by much less than that. Leprosy may not be a disease in 21st century America, but there are certainly lepers in 21st century America. There are plenty of people we label as unclean. There are plenty of people we deem as untouchables. In our opposition to homosexuals, we've gone to the extremes of speaking for God and stating that their sin is worse than our disease and in fact makes them unlovable. I wonder if there were any gays among the 3,000 that Peter baptized at Pentecost. There are plenty of lepers in 21st century America. In the hysteria of terrorism, we've gone to making Muslims scream unclean to prevent any possibility of us coming in contact with them. Where would we be if Saul of Tarsus never was pursued by Jesus, even though he persecuted Christians? Unclean. Unclean. Scream the homeless in their despair, because until they get up off those streets and employ themselves, then why would we even care? Prostitutes are the lepers of 21st century America. And although God asked Hosea to have the compassion and the audacity to marry one, we struggle to have the compassion to pray for him. How scary would it be if God gave up on us when we prostituted ourselves to sin and Satan became our pimp? And to our brothers and sisters who live with mental illness, live in confusion, when we tell them that peace could be obtained if they would just choose it. Thank God Jesus didn't see us instead of sin as the illness. To our fellow humans who cut themselves and tie a rope around their neck just to cope from the stress of being marginalized and disenfranchised, it's my prayer that we too remember we were foreigners who were worshiping other gods to cope from the absence of answers. We know far more about these lepers than we realize. After all, how could we forget about a group of people to whom we had to exert effort to exile?